Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Continue reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 19, Appearance of Shukadev Goswami. We are in text 28. Text 30. So a few verses were read yesterday, huh? Okay. Text 30. Word for word, sa sangvritas tatra mahan mahiyasam brahmarshi rajarshi devarshi sangahi vyarochitalam Bhagavan yatendur graharksha tara nikarahi paritaha sasangvritastatra mahan mahiyasam brahmarshi rajarshi devarshi sangahi
Maharishi Rajarshi Sangai
Vyarochitalam Bhagavan yatendur
Rochitalam Vanyatendu
Graharkshatara narakai paritaha
Rahakshatara Nyakirai Itaha
Sasangvritastatra mahan mahiyasam
Samvitastat Mahiyasam
Brahmarshi rajarshi devarshi sangai
Brahmarshi Rajarshi Arshi Sangai
Vyarochitalam Bhagavan yatendur
Rochitalam
Graharkshatara nirkarai paritaha Sasangritastatra mahan mahiyasam Brahmarshi rajarshi devarshi sangai
Rajarshi Devarshi Sangai
Vyarochitalam Bhagavan yatendur Graharkshatara nikarai paritaha
Samvitastasya Mahan Mahiyasam
Tasya mahiyasam
Brahmarshi Rajarshi Devarshi Sangai
Brahmarshi rajarshi devarshi sangai
Arochitalam Bhagavan Yatendu
Vyarochitalam Bhagavan yatendur
Graharkshatara Nikarai Parita
Graharkshatara narakai parita
Sasangvritastatra mahan mahiyasam Brahmarshi rajarshi devarshi sangai Vyarochatalang Bhagavan yatendur Grahakshatara Nikalai Paritaha
Sasambrita Satra Mahan Mahiyasam Brahmarshi Rajarshi Devarshi Sangahi Vyarochatalam Bhagavan Yatendur
Yarochitalam Bhagavan Yatendur
Graharkshatara Nikarai Paritaha
Graharkshatara Nikarai Paritaha
Sasamvritastatra Mahan Mahiyasam
Sangvitastatta Mahayasisam
Brahmarshi Rajarshi Devarshi Sanghai Yaro Chatalam Bhagavan Yatendur Priharkshatara Nikarai Paritaha
Sasamritastatra Mahamahinyasan Brahmarshi Rajarshi Devarshi Sanghai Vyarochatalam Bhagavan Yatindur Grahakshatara Nikarai Paritaha
Sasamvritastatra Mahan Mahiyasam Brahmarshi Rajarshi Devarshi Sangahi Vyarochatalam Bhagavan Yatendur Grahakshatara Nikarai Paritaha
Samvrita Mahan Mahiyasam Amarshi Rajarshi Devarshi Sangai Yarochatalam Bhagavan Yatendur Graharkshatara Nikarai Parita
Word for word, Saha Shri Shukadev Goswami Sangvrtaha, surrounded by, Tatra, there, Mahan, great, Mahiyasam, of the greatest, Brahmarshi, saint among the Brahmanas, Rajarshi, saint among the kings, Devarshi, saint among the demigods, Sangahi, by the assembly of, Vyarochata, well-deserved, Alam, able, Bhagavan, powerful, Yata, as, Induhu, the moon, Graha, planets, Riksha, heavenly bodies, Tara, stars, Nikarahi, by the assembly of, Pritaha, surrounded by. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Shukadev Goswami was then surrounded by saintly sages and demigods, just as the moon is surrounded by stars, planets, and other heavenly bodies. His presence was gorgeous, and he was respected by all. Purport. In the great assembly of saintly personalities, there was Vyasadeva, the Brahmarshi, Narada, the Devarshi, Parashuram, the great ruler of the Kshatriya kings, etc. Some of them were powerful incarnations of the Lord. Shukadeva Goswami was not known as Brahmarshi, Rajarshi, or Devarshi, nor was he an incarnation like Narada, Vyasa, or Parashuram, and yet he excelled them in respects paid. This means that the devotee of the Lord is more honored in the world than the Lord himself. One should therefore never minimize the importance of a devotee like Shukadeva Goswami. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnana Jana Shalakaya Chakshuru Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shukadeva Goswami was then surrounded by saintly sages and demigods, just as the moon is surrounded by stars, planets, and other heavenly bodies. His presence was gorgeous and he was respected by all. This is one of my favorite chapters in the Srimad Bhagavatam, the appearance of Shukadeva Goswami. And it's just so, the scene is so interesting, how he arrives, and then how he's given so much honor and respect, and how he arrives perfectly on time to give Maharaj Parikshit the Srimad Bhagavatam, the knowledge, the pastimes of the Lord. And so here we have one of the great stars of Srimad Bhagavatam arriving and going to start speaking in the next canto. So you can just imagine the scene, Maharaj Parikshit's there, and then all these great personalities appear, Devarshis, Brahmarshis, demigods, certain incarnations like Parashuram, Narada. And he's wondering, what am I supposed to do? He pays respects to all these great personalities. And then he's asking, what's the purpose of life? And then so nicely, Shukadeva Goswami appears and then starts speaking the Srimad Bhagavatam. So we can see that he's empowered by the Lord to speak. He's empowered by Krishna to give the Srimad Bhagavatam, to give this knowledge to Maharaj Parikshit. So it's not that these other personalities aren't great devotees of the Lord, because they are. Narada Muni is pure devotee. Vyasadeva, of course, is incarnation of the Lord. Parashuram incarnation. So these are great personalities as well, but Shukadeva Goswami is empowered by Krishna to give the Srimad Bhagavatam to Maharaj Parikshit in this pastime. So Prabhupada mentions that the devotee of the Lord is more honored in the world than the Lord himself, and this is Krishna's desire. And therefore we see that he installed Lord Maharaj Yudhisthira on the throne. He empowered Arjuna to become the greatest warrior and to kill so many other great warriors. And we see in the pastimes of Mahabharata how much Krishna was helping Arjuna. And in one sense, Krishna also empowered Arjuna to become bewildered by his internal potencies, so that he had to speak the Bhagavad Gita to him. And then we can see how much glorified Arjuna is now because of the Bhagavad Gita. So many people know Arjuna. Even more seemingly, some people that I've met, they like Arjuna more than Krishna. Because they say Krishna told them to fight and everything. But they have a lot of respect for Arjuna. So that's kind of funny. But so it's Krishna's desires to make his devotee glorified. That is an act of his love. It's a sign of his love for his devotee. If you love somebody, naturally you want to see them glorified. You want to see them excel. And just like a father, a loving father, wants to have their son or daughter excel them in all respects. Especially the son wants to see the son excel him in all respects. And he's happy. That's how he gets his happiness and feels satisfied when he's in old age. So it is a natural sentiment which comes from Krishna. And if one becomes a devotee of the Lord, the Bhagavatam explains that if you want to become famous, then become a devotee, become a great devotee of the Lord, then you become very much famous. The fame follows you. And that's the whole point. Krishna is reciprocating his love, and he wants to see his devotees famous, because it is to become a devotee, especially in the material world, is a very desirable thing for all living entities. It is very much needed to become devotees. And if one becomes famous for having such great devotional qualities, then naturally people become inspired to become devotees themselves. So the devotee is not in any way bereft of Krishna in the heart. And so therefore, when we go to holy places or temples or etc., of course it is, the deities are there and they're very much glorified. And also what is glorified is the saintly devotees that reside there and worship the deities and always have the deity in their hearts. And that was one of the highlights of my visits to other places was the devotees of Krishna there, and how much glorified they were, how much Krishna was glorifying them in various ways, and seeing just how real Krishna consciousness is and how attainable it is, even for persons that have sinful backgrounds before they came to Krishna consciousness. It's amazing and encouraging to see those devotees spend so many years dedicated to the service of the Lord, and in their old age are still performing so many wonderful services to Krishna. So,
similar circumstance took place when Lord Nrsimhadev appeared. He was so angry that the demigods and could not approach him. Even Brahma was afraid to approach him. And even the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi, was afraid to approach him. But they put forward Prahlad. They said, he came for you. So you please appease him, appease the Lord. And although Prahlad didn't think himself fit or qualified to approach the Lord, or certainly to speak anything or do anything beyond what the great personalities who were present could do, still they all unanimously elected him. So this is a similar case where Sukadeva Goswami wasn't coming there with the idea that I'm going to steal the show, I'm going to take over this gathering. He just innocently appeared, and it became apparent to all of them simultaneously that this is the right person to answer Parikshit Maharaj's question, to speak to him. So he accepted that, not out of pride. He didn't think himself qualified, but because he had heard from Vyasadeva, Srimad Bhagavatam, he understood that this was an opportunity for him to repeat that. And as we know, like a parrot makes a fruit more tasteful once he puts his beak in it. Similarly, once Shukadeva Goswami explained the Bhagavatam as it was spoken to him, it became sweeter, even more sweet than it was before. And we see Srila Prabhupada also like that. He wasn't recognized as a great sannyasi at the time when his spiritual master was present. He was a householder, but he glorified his spiritual master as best he could and was recognized by the devotees. One of his Yas Puja offerings was especially very famous, and he got the title Kavi, and he was recognized as a very advanced, great preacher. And that continued as he didn't disappoint anyone. His spiritual master knew and said that you don't have to tell him what to do, when he'll know exactly what to do and he'll do everything at the right time and circumstance. So similarly, Shukadeva Goswami was being directed by Krishna, and he was very humble. And everyone, without any envy, how can you envy a child like Prahlad, or how can you envy someone like Shukadeva Goswami? He has no wealth, has no prestige, no position, but yet here he is, full of transcendental knowledge. So advancement in spiritual life is not dependent upon any of those other things, not through wealth or even so-called renunciation or birth, but it's dependent on pure devotional service.
Thank you. Thank you. Does anybody have any comments or questions on these points? Yes, Magadari Prabhu?
Sometimes I have some sort of a doubt whether I should externally show some respect or praise or glorification of a devotee who is externally a subordinate, because there's a fear that pride may develop within that person, things like that. How can we understand this topic, and when to give respect even to, you know what I mean?
Yeah, so there's a hesitation to glorify a devotee who is subordinate or like less senior, because they might get proud. Well, everybody gets proud. Even those that have been around for a few more years. But it depends. I mean, if you're in a position where you're caring for somebody, like somebody's on your team, so to speak, like someone's on your immediate team, and you have a duty to help them advance. Like if someone's a new devotee in the Bhakti program, then as a Bhakti leader, then that's something that one has to consider and use time, place, and circumstance, knowing when to That's like a thing. If you say, "Oh, you're doing very nicely at this," and then if a subordinate turns around and says, "Oh yeah," if they start thinking that they're better than you at that, which may not be in reality, then that's not good. So, and even like someone just visiting the temple, if you encourage them in a certain way, like I remember one time I was in Michigan, and in this, we were doing some reading circle, and there was some guest that came, new person, and we were reading or something and giving a reflection, and somebody asked a question, another guest, and then this guest spoke up, and he said basically like what was in. He said he didn't read Prabhupada's books, or maybe he read a little bit or not fully, but he had realizations that were pretty similar, seemingly on point. And he shared his understanding. And then we were all like, "Oh, wow, yeah, that was great. That was nice. That was nice." And we appreciated, and we expressed it. And what happened is he started to feel like he was the guru of the group. So whenever somebody would ask a question, like another guest or even a devotee, he would just speak up and answer. And more or less, like what his answers were, like I said, similarly on point of how Prabhupada would explain something about certain things, or what Shastra says. But the mood was different, and so my friend's wife at the time, and he was a leader of the group, and she chastised him, saying, we shouldn't encourage him. We should encourage him to speak more. We shouldn't glorify him, because now he's just going to have the wrong mood, and he did. He had the wrong mood. So that's an example of learning how to navigate this concept, when to glorify someone. And because that's the thing, is you don't want them to develop the wrong mood, but at the same time, we want to encourage devotees, especially those that are less senior. That is our duty, actually, to give the encouragement. But it's something that also, like, might just have to be seen from experience. We don't know what's going on in someone else's mind. We don't know how proud they are of certain things, and at first, but then once you get to know somebody, then you get to know more about what kind of like what hindrances they're having, or like challenges they have, So if it's someone who can be like, who generally displays a submissive attitude, then glorifying them is never really a problem. But sometimes, newer devotees might get carried away with certain things, or maybe they have a strong conditioning towards something like being proud or displaying arrogance or something. So you have to be careful. You don't want to water that weed in the devotional creeper area. So, because that weed will grow and grow. It's like, I've seen some devotees that do really big on book distribution, but they also have a wrong mood. Like they become proud or hard-hearted or whatever. And then the more and more they get glorified by doing the service, because they're getting a lot of external results, naturally they'll get glorified. And then generally, if the devotee's not very careful, then they can fall away. from the service and even Krishna consciousness because of that pride and that fame from it. So that's another aspect too. If you're on the receiving end of glorification, that is part of your purification, is that you get some fame or respect from others, and then that's in one way a reciprocation from Krishna for you to understand ultimately that fame and respect, glorification is not actually meant for me, and it's not actually what I really want. But somehow or other Krishna gives it through devotees or others, and then one offers it back up to their seniors and everybody else who's helping them. So when the receiver of glorification who's in Krishna consciousness, they understand that ultimately I'm not the doer, I'm not the one who's able to do these things. It's by the mercy of Krishna and his devotees, especially the spiritual master. So I can say that whatever fame or respect that I've gained in devotional service, and naturally you do by just spending time practicing, it's really not it. It's really not what satisfies the soul. And from a materialistic point of view, that's what people want. It's our anartha, is that we want to be respected or adored, distinguished. It's a subtle sex desire. We want to profit, adoration, distinction, adoration. We want people to adore us, we want to be distinguished from others. That means that we're famous for something. We have sorts of certain abilities that distinguish us from the others, and people respect. So it is an purification if one receives it as well, and then one has to understand through intelligence and their own Krishna consciousness that this isn't the real thing that we're looking for. And I was just thinking about this the other day. Celebrities, their fame is actually a great burden for them. In one sense, it's a great asset because so many people adore them, and they like that, and they have some power, they have some resources like money and influence over others. But it's also a very much a great burden because high-profile celebrities, they can't even leave their house without a bodyguard or 2 bodyguards. They can't do things which a normal person could do. They can't just walk to CVS and not be harassed by paparazzis or harassed by fans that are kind of crazy, like there's crazy people that will do crazy things, or people break in their house, try to break in their house like that. So their fame is also a great burden, and that's just the duality of the material world. And we see even Shukadeva Goswami, right? He had these people just following him, and you could say, well, it's because he looked crazy or whatever, but also they were attracted somehow to him, to his renunciation, to his beauty, as those ladies were, but they were disturbing him like anything. Of course, he was transcendental, but he is transcendental, and so he wasn't disturbed, but seemingly they were disturbing him. So even this Shukadeva Goswami is receiving all this respect, but his father, Vyasadeva, is there. That's his spiritual master. So he's not thinking, oh yeah, I'm the guy here. But he understands that it's his service to give Srimad Bhagavatam to Mars Parikshit. So yeah, those are some points. I appreciate the question. So yeah, we just have to be careful if you're in the service of training another devotee, you have to be careful to not water the wrong not water weeds for somebody. You can be encouraging in other ways. Let's say somebody's, getting very proud over how many books they distribute. So then, but you want to share some respect for them and something that they're doing good at. So then you can glorify something else that they're doing good at. The advanced devotees, just like there's pastimes of Prabhupada, right, where some devotees, some of his disciples, were feeling proud about something, or they had some pride in mind when they asked a question to Srila Prabhupada, or had a prideful intention of wanting to be respected by Prabhupada, and he just didn't look at him. There is that one example of Tamal Krishna Maharaj, I believe it was, and there was a Bhaktin, or I don't know, maybe she was initiated, some other there, and I think the day before he had come, and Prabhupada gave him. Oh no, this was Sridhar Maharaj. So the day before he came, and Prabhupada was appreciating him, so he was thinking, "Oh yeah, I'm a big sannyasi," and he was feeling he had some pride, and then there was some Mataji in cleaning Prabhupada's room the next day, and Prabhupada was looking at her very lovingly and appreciating her devotion, and Haridananda Maharaj said that Prabhupada didn't even look at him, didn't give any sort of even acknowledgement that he was there. So this is the great value of having seniors, is that they're expert in, certain, if they're senior and Krishna conscious to a certain degree, then they have this expert quality of being able to instruct like that. So I said that because, okay, you could say, not someone who's maybe you're more in Krishna consciousness doesn't mean that they're expert in instructing you in all ways. But Krishna, this is a nice thing about the devotee association, is that even our peers, seniors, juniors, we can get so much purification from Krishna in all sorts of ways, and it's really an individual thing. So, but anyway. All right, well, I have to end the class because I have a conference today in 15 minutes till 2:30, so I won't be available to be on the scene, but I have, you can text me if there's something urgent that needs to be taken care of. Thank you very much. It's great to be back, and look forward to some progress, more progress to be made. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bo. Where did this book come from, by the way? This is your book?